explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
God's not dead.
Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi, the second fifth month, the 10th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Chenaguk, Hyungjin Moon, who is making his way back from Colorado even as we speak, and I believe that he will be arriving before too long. This morning I want to start with the weather, as usual. It's 60 degrees and partly cloudy outside right now in the Chunjung area, and be going up to 85 degrees today. And so another nice summer day, thunderstorm in spots. And then tomorrow, the 4th of July, we'll have a high of 82 and a low of 56 overnight. And some less humid air is coming in from the north, and so it should be a very pleasant day. And then we're going to have a highs of 82 for not only tomorrow, but for the day after and for the day after that. And so it's going to be a pretty constant weather for the next several days. Lots of sun and some comfortable temperatures here in the Poconos. I want to go to my Rima for this morning. I'm in Acts chapter. Actually, I told the tech name something else, but I'm going to be in chapter 20 and verse 32 through 35. So now, brethren, I commend you to God and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among all those who are sanctified. I have coveted no one's silver or gold or apparel. Yes, you yourselves know that these hands have provided for my necessities and for those who were with me. I have shown you in every way, by laboring like this, that you must support the weak, and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, that he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. So as Paul was going around from church to church, from communities that he founded, he provided for his own needs. He says that these hands, meaning his own hands, have provided for my necessities and for those who were with me. So if he needed clothing, he made his own clothes, or he somehow earned money in order to buy clothing or whatever he needed. He provided for his necessities himself, did not rely on those communities that he was visiting. And then it says that to remember the words of the Lord Jesus, that he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. In the American Patriot Bible, on the opposite page of this, it talks about charity and about charity in the early 19th century, first half of the 19th century. The evidence of God's grace, said the Presbyterian revivalist Charles G. Finney, was a person's benevolence toward others. The evidence of God's grace was a person's benevolence towards others. And this principle was born out of the Second Great Awakening from the 1800s to the 1830s in the United States. During a powerful evangelical revivalism of these years, church growth was stimulated, particularly in America's mainline denominations, and from the extraordinary energies generated by the evangelical movement. Numerous benevolent societies emerged. Originally devoted to the salvation of souls, the mission of some of these societies eventually expanded to the eradication of every kind of social ill, such as drinking and gambling. The earliest and most important of these organizations included the American Education Society of 1815, the American Bible Society of 1816, the American Sunday School Union of 1824, the American Tract Society of 1825, and the American Home Missionary Society of 1826. This powerful network of benevolent organizations had local branches existing in almost every town and city, though their greatest influence was in the Northeast. All of them were voluntary, passionately Christian, and many had no ties to any single religious group. Most were interdenominational, and the cooperative enterprises often took place among societies. The Mississippi Valley Plan, devised by John Beck, to evangelize the upper Mississippi Valley in 1826, illustrated how these agencies worked together. He went to the Baptist General Convention and the American Home Missionary Society and convinced them that every missionary could sell Bibles for the American Bible Society, distribute tracts for the American Tract Society, and start Sunday schools for the American Sunday School Union. The agencies adopted the plan, and as a result, 23,000 Bibles and $18,000 worth of tracts were shipped to Ohio and Kentucky in 1830 alone. Members of the evangelical movement of the 19th century considered themselves as American patriots who subscribed to the views of the founders that religion was a necessary spring for Republican government. Religion was a necessary spring for Republican government. In that light, the benevolent societies assumed the role of helping to form the virtuous citizenry of which the founders spoke. The conversion of souls was also seen as helping to save the Republic. For instance, the American Home Missionary Society assured its supporters in 1826 that we are doing the work of patriotism, no less than Christianity. This is an America that is largely lost today, where charity was done by these private and voluntary charitable organizations and not the government. And Father often spoke, True Father Sun Myung Moon often spoke that America needs to return to its founding spirit. And this is very much a part of that spirit, where charity was done out of a religious conviction. Not only Christians, but I believe other, for Judaism too, I believe, had its own charity works, charitable societies and organizations. And this characterized American society through much of the 19th century until the end of the 19th century, when, ironically, it was actually Christians who pushed the government to get more involved in charity. For example, one example was to push the government to pass a constitutional amendment to ban the sale of liquor, for example. And from there, then, government began to encroach more and more upon the church's role in charity until now. Although, of course, religious charitable organizations still exist, but the government is assumed to be the main actor in the area of charity and of welfare, of social welfare. The Cheonrikuk Constitution seeks to bring back this spirit that existed in America in the early 19th century, where it is private organizations that do charity. Religious and community organizations doesn't have to be religious, because there's freedom of religion in Cheonrikuk, and so people can do charity outside of any kind of a religious conviction, or even atheists that can do charity, but not the government. And so the Constitution forbids government from getting involved in social welfare, in education, or in healthcare. That would be against the Constitution in the Cheonrikuk. Well, that would be done through private organizations. And the important difference is that when the government does it, first of all, it becomes a monopoly. And whenever you have a monopoly, whether it is a private monopoly in the private sector or in the government sector, wherever you have a monopoly, you have two things. You have increasing costs, and you have decreasing quality. And especially when you have it in the government, when you have a monopoly like that, you have a concentration of power, and wherever you have concentration of power, you have corruption. But if it is done by many, many different charitable organizations, then there's a free market principle that's operating. There's competition, because people who donate are going to want to donate to the organization that is going to spend their dollars, their contributions most efficiently. And even now today, we have websites that gather financial information from all the nonprofit organizations in America. GuideStar is one of those that I like to use. And you can look up a nonprofit organization and see. You can look at their financial statements and see how they are using their money. You can't do that with the government. So that is what we are trying to bring back. Let me go briefly right now to the Cheonsonggyung. What should our body be doing now? We are in right now let's see, Book 6, Our Life in the Spiritual Realm, Chapter 1, page 775. What should our body be doing now? As you were breathing through the umbilical cord in the womb, you were also preparing the nostrils through which to breathe later. Then when you burst out from the womb, you change the organ that you use and begin to breathe. Likewise, what you need after your birth is to experience love to the very core of your being. You need to breathe the air of love from your father and mother. You should go through everything in life while being supplied with the air of love. And that relates to charity. Charity is to give and take love. Paul said that it is reminded that Jesus' words that it is more blessed to give than to receive, but of course both are necessary. When we give and then we also receive, that is an exchange of love, and that builds relationships, and that is the air that we will breathe once we get to spirit world. All right, let's take a break now, and when we come back, we'll have a message from Mrs. Kang.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017, 8th year of Chungi's second fifth month, and the 10th day by the heavenly calendar. Mrs. Kang will be speaking now, and she has asked me to read from the New Testament, Mark 18, or is this Mark 16, I'm sorry, Mark 16. Let me just make sure of that. Yes, Mark 16. And verses 19 and 20. So then, after the Lord had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth and preached everywhere, the Lord working with them and confirming the word with signs following. Amen. 예. 강 기자님 말씀하십시오. 예.
안녕하십니까.
Good morning, everyone.
오늘 말씀드릴 내용은 참 부모님의 의미에 대해서 말씀드리겠습니다.
Today I'd like to speak to you about the meaning of true parents.
참 부모란 인간 개인을 뜻하는 말이 아닙니다. 참 부모란 하나님의 창조 이상 속에 있었던 본연의 부모 위치를 말하는 것입니다.
예, 거기까지요. True parents do not refer to any individual. True parents refer to the ideal of creation of God.
하나님의 창조 이상은 참 부모를 통해서 완성될 수 있었습니다. 그러나
그 문장 하나씩 읽으시면은 제가 더 쉽게 통역할 수 있습니다. Okay.
그러나
강 회장님. Let me. She doesn't hear very well.
그러나
거기에 문장 하나씩만 해주세요.
예, 그럴게요. 네.
Sorry about that. She is 90 years old, so her mind is very clear, but sometimes a little bit hard of hearing, so I have to speak to her, next to her and speak. I asked her to read one sentence at a time so that I could translate more easily. Anyway, what she read before that interruption, for which I apologize, was that God's ideal of creation is accomplished through true parents. 예, 말씀하세요.
그러나 최초의 인간 조상이 타락함으로 참 부모의 이상은 실현되지 않았습니다.
But because of the fall of human beings at the beginning of history, the ideal of true parents was not realized.
이를 다시 찾아 세우기 위해서 복귀 섭리가 시작되었습니다.
And it was in order to recover this, restore this, that the providence of restoration began.
그러나 4,000년 만에 오신 예수님도 인간들의 불신으로 인하여 신부를 맞이하지 못하고 재림의 약속을 남기고 떠났습니다. 참부모의 이상은 땅에서 결실되지 못하고 연장되었습니다.
4,000 years after the beginning of this history of restoration, Jesus came, but he was not able to find a bride on earth, and so the ideal of true parents was not realized.
2000년이 지난 후 재림주 참부모로 오시는 문선명 선생님께서 어린 한학자님을 선택하여 어린 양 잔치를 승리적으로 세움으로써 비로소 타락 세계에서 두 분을 통해 하나님의 혈통인 참 자녀가 태어났고 비로소 인류 역사 최초로 이 땅에 참부모님이 현현하시게 되었습니다.
And 2,000 years later, Reverend Sung Myung Moon came as the true parents, and he chose the young Hak Ja-han to be his bride, and had carried out the marriage feast of the Lamb, and so that for the first time in history, the true parents could then exist in the society of fallen human beings.
따라서 타락 인간들도 참 부모님을 믿고 접붙임을 받음으로써 중생식을 통해 구원을 받을 수 있게 된 것입니다.
And so it became possible then for fallen human beings to believe in the true parents, and then to receive the holy blessing, and to receive and to be resurrected and receive salvation.
따라서 타락 인간은 참 부모님을 절대 주체로 모셔야 합니다. 참 부모님께 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종을 해야 합니다.
And so human beings must believe absolutely in the true parents, must follow true parents, unite with true parents with absolute faith, absolute obedience, and absolute love.
뿐만 아니라 참 부모님 안에서도 주체와 대상이 있습니다. 메시아 참 아버님은 하나님의 정자를 갖고 오시는 분입니다.
And within true parents, there is also a subject partner and object partner. Father is the person who comes with a God's seed.
그는 이 땅에서 신부를 찾아 오셨습니다. 그 신부를 통해서 하나님의 혈통이 이 땅에 뿌리를 내리는 것입니다.
He came to the earth to find and establish a bride, and it is through this bride that he is able to plant a God's lineage on this earth.
따라서 참 아버님은 하나님을 대표한 분이고 참 어머님은 땅을 대표한 분입니다. 이것이 원리입니다.
And so a father is the one who represents heaven, and a mother is the one who represents earth. This is the principle.
참 어머니는 참 아버님 앞에서는 대상의 위치에 계십니다. 참 어머님은 참 아버님께 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종을 해야 합니다.
And so a mother stands in the object partner position to father. And she must unite with father with absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience.
참 어머님이시기 때문에 모든 식구들에게 앞서서 더욱 모범적으로 절대 신앙의 위치에 계셔야 하는 것입니다.
Because she is the true mother, she must present the model of absolute faith to father.
참 어머니는 하나님의 혈통인 참 아버님의 정자를 받아서 14명의 참 자녀를 낳아드렸습니다.
Mother received God's seed from father and gave birth to 14 children.
이것이 어머니의 첫째 사명이며 이 사명을 승리하심으로 참 부모님의 위치에 오르게 되었습니다.
This is her first mission as the true mother, and it was because she was victorious in this mission that she could rise to the stage of a true parent.
두 번째는 하나님의 혈통을 모시고 보호하셔야 하는 사명입니다. 분명한 것은 참 자녀님들은 참 어머니의 자녀이지만 혈통적으로 보아서 참 아버님의 혈통, 즉 하늘의 혈통을 가지고 태어나신 분입니다.
Her second mission is to protect God's lineage as represented in her children. And they are her children, but they are not of her lineage, they are of the lineage of God. They are of that was planted on earth through true father.
참 어머니는 참 자녀님들의 어머니이지만 혈통적으로는 한씨의 혈통입니다.
She is the mother of the true children to whom she gave birth, but she is not of the lineage of heaven. She is of the Han lineage.
어머니가 참 어머니의 위치에 있었던 것은 분명한 사실이지만 혈통적으로 보면 하늘의 혈통이 아닙니다.
It is true that she was in the true mother's position, but in terms of lineage, she was not in heaven's lineage.
앞에 앞에 참자가 들어갔다고 다 하늘의 직계 혈통이 아닙니다. 따라서 참 자녀님의 혈통이 참 어머니의 혈통보다 높은 하늘의 혈통입니다.
Just because the word true comes before her name does not mean that she is necessarily belonging to heaven. That the lineage of the true children is far superior to the lineage of the Han mother.
우리는 이것을 분명히 알아야 합니다. 그러나 어머니는 참 아버님께서 세우신 가인, 아벨 두 아들을 보호하여 올리는 사명에서 승리하지 못했습니다.
We need to know this very clearly. But unfortunately, Han mother was not able to be victorious in her mission to protect the true Cain and true Abel who were established by father.
대신자, 상속자, 후계자로 세우신 아들을 내치시고 당신이 대신자, 상속자, 후계자가 되려고 하고 스스로 여왕의 자리에 오르셨습니다.
Instead of she chased out the person who had been appointed by father as the representative body, the inheritor and successor, and instead made herself the representative body, inheritor and successor, and elevated herself to the position of empress.
참 아버님 성화 후 어머니는 참 아버님의 혈통을 받들고 보호해야 하는 입장인데도 불구하고 참 아버님의 혈통을 누르고 무시하고 당신 스스로 메시아 순혈 혈통이라고 주장하였습니다.
After her father's Songhua, it was her responsibility to lift up and to protect her father's lineage. But instead of doing that, she actually trying to erase and chasing out her father's lineage and lifting up her own lineage and herself.
따라서 참 어머님의 본연의 위치를 떠났었습니다. 그러나 어머니가 자기 위치를 떠났다고 해서 참 부모님 섭리 자체가 실패한 것은 아닙니다.
In so doing, she left her position as true mother. But that does not mean that the providence of true parents was a failure.
어머니가 참 어머님의 위치에서 스스로 내려왔기 때문에 참 어머니의 위치는 공석이 되었습니다.
Because she herself left that position of a true mother, that position still remains. It is just a vacant position now.
그러나 참 아버님께서는 당신의 사명을 완성하시고 참 부모님의 위치에 계시기 때문입니다.
But Father was victorious in his mission, and he remains in the position of true parents.
절대 주체이신 참 아버님께서 참 부모의 위치를 지키고 계시기 때문에 참 부모님의 섭리는 실패한 것이 아니고 무효가 된 것도 아닙니다.
Because Father, as the absolute subject, remains in his position and is maintaining the position of true parents, the mission of true parents has not failed, and it continues.
그러나 대상인 어머니가 절대 주체를 부정하고 당신이 주체의 위치에 올라가려고 함으로써 참 부모의 위치에서 스스로 이탈한 것입니다.
What happened was that the mother herself took herself out of that position of the true parents, and tried to become the subject partner herself, and that is her mistake.
따라서 비록 어머니는 자기 위치를 떠났지만 참 부모님의 섭리는 실패가 아닌 것입니다.
And so that is why, even though the Han mother chose to vacate the position of true parents, that position remains and has not failed.
참 아버님께서는 당신의 사명을 다 이루시고 승리하셨지만 어머니의 사명은 남아 있었습니다.
Father was victorious in every aspect of his mission, but the position of the true mother still needs, the victory in that position still needs to be accomplished.
참 아버님 말씀에 그렇게 되어 있습니다. 참 아버님을 주체로 모시지 않는 어머니는 절대 대상의 위치를 이탈한 것이 되고 그런 어머니를 통해서는 구원의 길이 열리지 않습니다.
Father said that mother must unite with him in the position of the object partner, and that if she leaves that position of the object partner, then salvation will no longer be possible through her.
참으로 안타까운 일이 벌어졌습니다. 천지에 참 어머니의 위치보다 영화로운 자리가 어디 있겠습니까?
This was truly a tragic event that happened. There is no position in the universe that is more glorious, with no more honor than the position of the true mother.
참 부모님이란 말의 의미는 외형적으로는 참 아버님과 참 어머님을 뜻하는 명칭이지만 내용적으로는 두 분이 분리된 모습이 아니라 하나라는 뜻입니다.
The term of true parents, of course, refers to individuals, but in terms of its content, it refers to Father.
말씀과 뜻과 이상과 목적과 방향이
It cannot be separated.
절대 일치한다는 의미입니다.
It means that the two must be completely united in terms of their spirit and their thought.
우리는 참 아버님 말씀과 섭리 역사를 얘기할 때 두 분께서 하나가 되어 역사하신다는 믿음에서 참 부모님이라는 존칭을 사용하여 왔습니다.
And we have until now used the honorific of true parents based on the assumption that they were completely one.
그러나 사실 그 내면에는 참 아버님의 말씀과 역사가 중심이 되어 있지, 어머니의 말씀과 역사가 중심이 되어 있지는 않습니다.
But within that relationship of true parents, it is Father's words, it is Father's work, it is Father's providence that is the center, not Mother's words.
통일가의 식구라면 누구나 그렇게 알고 있는 것입니다.
And anyone who is a member of the unification movement throughout the world knows this.
그러나 참 아버님의 성화 이후 어머니의 뜻과 이상이 참 아버님과 분립되었다면 문제는 심각해지는 것입니다.
But if it is true that after Father's Songhwa, Mother's will and her intention became divergent from Father's, then that would be a very serious thing.
우리는 어머니가 참 아버님과 하나가 되셨다고 누구나 믿었습니다. 어머님이 참 아버님께 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종의 길을 따라오셔서 완성한 해화가 되셨다고 믿었습니다.
We believed that Mother was one with Father. We believed that her relationship with Father was one of absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience. We believed that the two were completely one.
그래서 참 아버님을 대하듯이 일체 대신 참 어머니를 역시 존경하고 영광을 올려드렸습니다.
And that is why we are related to Mother in the same way that we related to Father. And that is why we lifted her up and we praised her.
그러나 성화 이후 참 아버님이 세우신 원칙과 유훈이 하나씩 사라지는 현상을 보게 됩니다.
But after Father's Songhwa, we see that the principles that Father established and the works that he began have been torn down one by one.
참 아버님의 뜻과 한학자 어머니의 뜻이 일치되지 않는 것을 목격하게 됩니다.
We witnessed that Mother's intent and will were not identical with Father's.
하나가 되지 않으면 분리가 되는 것입니다. 불행하게도 분리되었으면 우리는 누구를 따라야 하는 것입니까? 두말할 것도 없이 참 아버님을 따라야 합니다.
If they are not one, then they must be separate. And if they are separate, we have to choose which to follow. And if we are forced to make a choice, there is no doubt, there can be no doubt that we will have to choose to follow Father, not Mother.
여기에 이유가 있을 수 없습니다. 구차한 설명도 필요 없습니다.
There can be no argument. There is no necessary for any complicated explanation about this.
참 부모라는 이름으로 식구들을 혼돈시켜 참 아버님과 다른 길을 가고 있는 어머니를 일심일체인 양 거짓 선전하는 자들은 참 아버님을 배신한 천사장들입니다.
And those who promote mother, the Han mother, as being one with Father, those who say that she is one with Father, even though she is going a separate path, are fallen archangels.
어머니는 이런 말씀을 했습니다. 나는 처음부터 독생녀이며 메시아로 왔다. 아버지는 원죄가 있는 혈통이잖아요. 나는 원죄 없이 태어난 사람이다. 나는 하나님이다.
Han mother has said as follows: I was the only begotten daughter from the beginning. I am the Messiah. Father, isn't it true that the Father was born with original sin? Isn't that true? She said. But I was born without original sin. These are statements that she has made.
어머니는 공개적으로 이렇게 말했습니다. 우리가 모셔왔던 참 어머님에 대한 이상은 이제 사라져 버렸습니다.
These are the statements that she made in public. The ideal that we had in our minds as we attended to Mother, that ideal has disappeared now.
협회에서 참 부모님은 일체라고 주장하는 것은 참 아버님의 업적과 위상을 이용하고자 하는 속이는 것에 불과합니다.
The Family Federation claims that father and mother continue to be one. This is nothing more than their misusing and abusing father's accomplishments during his lifetime.
문형진님은 한학자 어머니가 회개하고 다시 오실 수 있는 기회를 주셨습니다.
Hyungjinim gave mother a chance to repent and to return to father.
아버님을 배신한 입장에서 회개하고 가인 아벨 두 아들에게 돌아오라고 길을 열어 주시고 기한을 주셨습니다.
He gave her a chance to repent and to return to the Cain and Abel that father had established, and that way was opened for her.
설교 말씀을 통해서 공개하셨습니다. 이는 참 아버님의 직접 주관하에서 깊은 영적 교류에 의해 참 아버님의 뜻을 전한 것입니다.
He gave this declaration through his sermons, and this was done as a result of Hyungjinim's deep spiritual communication with true Father.
최후의 통첩이었지요. 물론 아시다시피 어머니는 외면하셨습니다.
Of course, as we know, Han mother ignored these calls for her repentance.
어느 날 형제님은 눈물을 흘리시면서 아들 신주님을 정식으로 다음 세자로 책봉하는 식을 하늘에 바치셨습니다.
One day, Hyungjinim was shedding tears as he established his son Shinjun as the next inheritor.
예배단상에서 당신의 자녀들을 모두 불러 세우시고 모두 신주님께 경배하도록 하였습니다.
He called up his son Shinjun to the stage, and he had his other children bow down to Shinjun.
연하님도 역시 경배를 하셨지요. 낳은 어머니이지만 신주님을 왕으로 모시겠다는 언약을 하였습니다.
And also Yonanim bowed down to her son Shinjun. Even though he was her son, still she bowed down to him and promised, made a commitment to attend him as her king in the future.
신주님이 3대 왕으로 서실 때에 어머니 연하님께서 3대 왕위를 빼앗지 않고 모시겠다는 서약을 공개적으로 시켰습니다.
Hyungjinim had Yeonanim make a public promise that when Shinjun becomes the third king, that she will not usurp that position, but will submit herself to him as her king.
그날은 교회가 온통 엄숙하고 눈물바다였습니다. 형제님도 연하님도 자녀님도 식구들도 모두 많은 눈물을 흘렸습니다. 이를 보는 성전 식구 모두 마음이 아팠던 것입니다.
On that day, everyone in the church, in the sanctuary church congregation, was moved to tears to see
따라서 이 연하님이 책임을 인계받으심으로써 어머니에게 주어진 책임은 이제 지나갔습니다.
Because Yeonanim inherited the position inherited the responsibility of the mother in this way, the Han mother no longer has the responsibility of the mother.
실패한 어머니로 떨어진 것입니다. 따라서 회개하고 다시 돌아오서도 문 형제님 개인의 어머니로는 돌아올 수 있을지 몰라도 참 어머님으로 다시 돌아올 수는 없습니다.
Because that the position has now passed to Yeonanim, now even if the Han mother were to repent, she would be able to return perhaps as Hyungjinim's physical mother, but certainly not as the true mother.
이는 문현정님의 뜻이 아닙니다. 참 아버님의 뜻입니다.
This is not Hyungjinim's will. It is the will of true father Sun Myung-moon.
해와의 사명이 인계되었기 때문입니다. 중심 인물이 책임에 실패하셨기 때문에 사명이 인계되었습니다.
This is because the responsibility and the mission of true mother has been passed on to another person. When a central figure fails, that mission gets passed on.
하늘은 부르심에 실패한 인물을 다시 쓰지 않습니다. 그냥 책임에 실패한 어머니가 된 것입니다.
Once a central figure fails in their mission, God does not call that person again. So Han mother now is nothing more than a person who failed to fulfill the mission of the true mother.
어머니보다 더 영광스러운 자리가 천상천하에 없는데 스스로 높아지기 위해서 절대 주체인 참 아버님을 버렸습니다. 대상으로서의 참 어머니의 위치를 떠났습니다.
Even though there is no position in the universe that is more glorious than that of the true mother, mother threw away that position herself because she attempted to elevate herself, attempted to uphold herself, but she left her position as true father's object partner.
참 아버님과 상관없는 입장에 떨어졌습니다.
And now she has fallen to a position where she has no relationship to father.
그래서 지금 때에 독생녀라는 말 가지고 상당히 분분하고 있습니다마는 내용을 알고 보면은 이러한 내용이 여기 숨어 있다는 것을 우리는 알아야 되겠습니다.
So now she is using the term of only begotten daughter to try and to gather glory to herself. But we need to look at what that actually means.
통일교회 식구는 어느 누구에 없이 아버님을 중심 삼고 아버님의 말씀을 지키며 아버님이 말씀하셨던 그 내용을 실천해 가는 것이 우리 통일 식구의 임무라고 봅니다.
Everyone who is in the unification movement worldwide follows Father and follows his words and studies his words and attempts to practice his words in our own lives. That is true with every single individual who is part of the unification movement.
내가 독생녀가 되겠다고 해서 되는 것이 아니라 하늘이 어떻게 보시고 아버님께서 어떻게 보시느냐 하는 것을 우리는 중요하게 생각하고 또 여기에 참 뜻을 알고 따라야 할 것으로서 믿어집니다.
Not that we're not trying, no one should try to lift up themselves. No one should try to declare themselves as the only begotten daughter or some glorified position like that. Instead, we should all be trying to follow Father and to practice His words in our lives.
우리는 이것을 바르게 알고 똑똑하게 알고 여기에 맞추는 우리 식구들이 되지 않으면 안 될 것입니다.
We have to become people who practice this in our own lives. That is what it means to be a member of the Unification Church.
아직도 모르고 있는 사람들이 많이 있기 때문에 오늘 아침 이런 제목을 가지고 여러분들에게 말씀했습니다. 감사합니다.
There are still many people who are not aware of these things, and that is why I spoke to you this morning on this topic. Thank you very much. All right, let's take a, what is it now going to be, a 1 minute or 5 minute break? 1 minute break, and we'll come back after this break. Thank you very much. Thank you to Mrs. Khan.
고맙습니다.
감사합니다.
네.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyung Jin-moon. You may have noticed that Mrs. Kang was reading from some printed material just now, and that was actually from a book called The Tears of True Father. That was written by a professor in Korea, and I think that may either has been or will be translated into English. I'm not sure, but she was inspired to read from that book this morning about what is going on in the Providence right now. All right, meanwhile, in the macro world, there's a lot happening, so let's get to it. And of course, the thing that everyone is talking about, I think everyone, maybe not everyone, maybe one or two people not, but everyone else, is of course, the tweet that President Trump put out yesterday, where he is body slamming a CNN logo. So let's, in case there may be one or two people who have not yet seen it, so let's go ahead and play that right now. Can we bring that up? Bring that up on the screen. Oh, ouch! Oh, that must have to hurt. Oh, if that's real, it really hurts. Ooh! Ow! Ow! Broad News Network, and so this was a video. Actually, the actual video, of course, was taken, I guess, apparently in 2010, when Donald Trump was invited to take part in something called some Billionaires Smackdown or something like that. I'm not sure what it was called, but Billionaire something like that. For the it was a promotion of the World Wrestling Entertainment or something. What is it? WWE. So he was actually, he was actually body slamming Vince McMahon, who is the head of that organization, and they apparently someone else used it instead of Vince McMahon. Put in Ted Cruz's Senator Ted Cruz as the head at one point, and no one really paid much attention to it then. But put the CNN logo there, and all of a sudden it's a worldwide news, and you know. The media is just up in arms. They just can't believe that this is being done to them. You know, I mean, all right. New York Times sponsored a play where that depicted Donald Trump being assassinated, and this play was played put on not just once, but night after night after night, and that was okay for the media. Kathy Griffin, you know, held up a head of the president, bloodied head of the president, as if he had been beheaded, ISIS style, and that was not so bad for the media. In fact, Seinfeld called that, "Oh, it's just a bad joke. What's the big deal?" But here, you know, body slamming, not killing, but body slamming, not assassinating, but body slamming, and you know, world wrestling style body slamming, which means that it. Okay, not really body slamming, all right? I mean, it was. Can I say it? It was acting, and everybody says, "Oh no, he's promoting violence. He's promoting violence." I mean, when Madonna says, "Oh, I think a lot about blowing up the White House," that's not promoting violence. When Rosie O'Donnell says that she would fully support a military coup d'état, that's not promoting violence. But suddenly, when they body slam a logo, not an individual reporter, not a journalist, but an actual logo of CNN, then that apparently is something that crosses the line for journalists, and that is just incredibly hypocritical. Here, let's watch what Infowars has to say on this.
All right, John Rappaport soon we're going to launch this soon. I just got a lot of.
Let's go skip here to where Paul Joseph Watson comes on. That's what I want to watch here.
Brian Stelter is butthurt that people are being mean to CNN. Boo-hoo! He's whining about InfoWars promoting hate and resentment towards CNN.
Millions of people are exposed to extreme anti-journalism views daily. Example, memes equating journalists to terrorists. This is harmful.
You want to talk about harmful? And all you've got is memes? I'll tell you what's harmful. Your network pushed a fake news narrative, Trump-Russia collusion, that your own producer admits was made up for ratings.
Our ratings are incredible right now.
You think the whole Russia is just like...
I mean, it's mostly right now.
That your own top contributor admits is a big nothing burger.
The Russian thing is just a big nothing burger.
A narrative that pushed two superpowers closer to World War III. That's harmful. Your network pushed a fake news narrative. Hands up, don't shoot.
We want you to know that our hearts are out there marching with them.
That led to 2 mass shootings, riots, and a nationwide hate movement. That's harmful. Your network pushed a fake news narrative. Iraq having weapons of mass destruction that led to 1 million dead Iraqis and thousands of dead and maimed US troops. That's harmful. Your network pushed a fake news narrative about Syrian rebels being moderate.
Show the U.S., I think, that there is a significant amount of moderate rebels ready to take to the ground in Syria.
That led to the rise of ISIS and an international migrant crisis. That's harmful. Your network pushed a fake news narrative about the Aleppo boy being a victim of Assad to propagandize for the invasion of Syria.
We shed tears, but there are no tears here. He doesn't cry once. That little boy is in total shock.
When his whole family were supporters of Assad and said their son was used as a propaganda tool by the jihadist rebels and by extension, CNN. harmful. Some of this anti-journalism, it's insidious. I'll tell you what's insidious. Your network stage managing a protest to manipulate public opinion right after a terrorist attack. That's insidious. Your network burying the truth by reporting the Michigan airport terrorist said something in Arabic when it had been widely reported for hours before that he had shouted Allah Akbar. That's insidious. Your network telling Americans it was illegal to read WikiLeaks. That's insidious.
It's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us.
Your network cutting off guests who even mentioned WikiLeaks. That's insidious.
Hillary Clinton's a liar. She can't be trusted. And now the two faces of Hillary Clinton are coming out. The fact through WikiLeaks that she says one thing and...
Oh, no.
Your network cutting off guests who mention a link between refugees and terrorism. That's insidious.
30% of their domestic terrorism cases that they're investigating are from folks who are refugees. It's important not to label all refugees bad people. That's not why I'm here. But
your network pretending its own cameraman is a random man-on-the-street anti-Trump protester. That's insidious.
One vote equals one vote. What's wrong with that? What's the debate?
I definitely feel his passion. There's other people out here who feel the same way. Like you heard this man, very passionate about the idea. He doesn't want Hillary to stop.
Yeah, Brian, you know I used to live there, and I know that guy. That's John Gurkovic. He actually went to Africa with me as a cameraman.
Your network's commentator giving debate questions to Hillary Clinton in advance. That's insidious. Your network telling debate focus groups what to say to make Hillary look good. That's insidious.
That America already is great, but we are great because we are good.
America's great. All right, so I want to ask you, what was it about Hillary Clinton's argument that resonated with you following Donald Trump's defense of the video?
She stated that America is already great, and I tend to agree with that.
Your network running cover for Black Lives Matter by editing statements to turn them into the complete opposite of what was actually said. That's insidious.
Don't burn it down. We need in our community. Take that to the suburbs. Burn that down.
With his sister calling for peace.
Don't bring the violence here and the ignorance here.
Milwaukee police.
Your network calling Milo Yiannopoulos an extremist. That's insidious.
Most journalists try to be fair and right. When screw-ups happen, corrections are made.
Screw-ups? Really? Screw-ups. A Harvard study found that CNN's coverage of Trump was 93% negative. 93%. 13-to-1 negative to positive stories. Is that just a screw-up too? Whoops, we just did 13 negative stories on Trump again. What a coincidence. Oh well, just a screw-up. That's not a screw-up. That's bias. That's not fair and right. That's having an agenda. Look, I'm biased, but I don't claim to be neutral. I don't claim to be an impartial journalist. The fact that you and everyone else at CNN is still claiming to be impartial is an insult to our intelligence. Your boy Jim Acosta whines every week about how Trump and the White House take questions from conservative media. Like, how dare they allow anyone to break CNN's monopoly? Here's a guy who got caught tweeting fake news about Trump not visiting Scalise in hospital. Every chance he gets, he's bitching about Trump. He's not fair. He's not impartial. He's not a journalist. He's an activist. Just be frigging honest about it. You wonder why there's all this hate and resentment towards you. It's not because people hate all journalists. It's because you lie all the time, you push an agenda, and you get caught. But then you have the arrogance to still claim that you're impartial. You have the arrogance to point the finger at us as the reason for you being reviled. You have the arrogance, after all this, to still claim you have the moral high ground. You don't have the moral high ground. People hate you because you lie about huge things. You lie about things that cause wars and violence on the streets. That's why people hate you. They're not anti-journalism. They're anti-fake news. They're anti-CNN. And you earned that hate because...
Oh, no.
All right, let's take a break now, and we'll be back. We'll discuss this after this break.
surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. God's not dead. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. He's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second King of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, and I'm joined this morning now with our panelists, Richard Panzer and Lourdes Schwartz, where we'll talk about a number of things, but first continue to discuss this presidential smackdown of the CNN logo. One thing I noticed is that on the president's tweets, he usually gets likes, or what do you call them on Twitter? Are they still called likes? Or the little heart shapes usually he gets between, say, 50,000 and 100,000 or so. Sometimes it goes a little bit over 100,000. But so far on this, I think it's been about 24 hours since he put this up, and he has 458,309 likes as of a few minutes ago, and 281,073 retweets. And so it seems like a lot of people are liking this thing, a lot more people than normally like his tweets. But Richard, I wanted to get your opinion on this, on this tweet.
Well, my honest reaction is, it's not presidential, but who cares? I think a lot of people are fed up with CNN and the fake news, so I go for it, Donald.
Lourdes, do you have an opinion?
I have an opinion about just about everything.
Okay.
But this particular, I'm with everybody. I think the president is fed up with all that's going on, and it would be nice to see that people break away from it. I think he's going to the extreme, but I think through this extreme situation, he's going to reach a lot of people, and they're going to start thinking about it. Look, this is bizarre. They have to stop it already. You know, the president has a job to do. He cannot be paying attention to all of this. The media is bizarre. That's what my point is.
I noticed that when people attack Christians a lot, but then when the Christians fight back, they say, "Oh, no, you're not supposed to fight back. That's not Christian." They attack the president, but when the president fights back, they say, "Oh, no, you can't fight back. That's not presidential." These people attack the president, but then they say that it's not presidential for the president to respond, and the president just supposed to sit there and take it. But he's responded, and kind of I consider this kind of a lighthearted thing. I mean, after all, the whole World Wrestling thing in itself was very lighthearted. Kind of, I think it was called the Billionaire Smackdown or something like that. And that, of course, thing was kind of staged. So he or someone, I guess, I'm not sure if he created this meme himself, or if someone else created it and then he simply retweeted it. I think someone else created it. He's not retweeting here, but he's maybe downloading and retweeting. But it's someone made it, and I think he found it humorous, and he put it up in humor, and it has caused a firestorm, perhaps predictably. But how do you feel about the whole thing about President using Twitter? Because some people are trying to get him to stop. Do you think he should stop using Twitter?
Well, he's not going to. So I mean, look, I have mixed feelings because I mean I like this particular one, but sometimes he's actually doing very well and having all kinds of victories, and his own tweets sometimes distract people from the fact that he's winning on important issues. So, I have mixed feelings, but I like this knockdown.
Lourdes?
Yeah, I think his tweets are okay. I like the idea that we can understand exactly what is in his mind every day. So I think for some it's helpful. To many it's not helpful. I think to me it doesn't matter much, but I would like to know what is in his head.
It's amazing to me that a 73-year-old man is so versatile with the social media, at least with Twitter, and is actually out communicating CNN. And is actually teaching a lot of people how to communicate through Twitter. I think that's pretty amazing. Of course, you know, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, who was president from the 1930s to the 1940s, he served 4 terms he was elected to 4 terms as president. He died in office during his 4th term. But he used the fireside chats. He used the radio, which was the cutting-edge technology at that time. Radio was the cutting-edge technology, and he used that to speak to the American people directly, not through the media. Other people have tried it, but then when television came along, people have tried that, and presidents used that, I've forgotten which president it was that first started this idea of issuing some kind of a video every Saturday or so, and now that you have a social media, we have a president that is using that to communicate directly with the American people. President after president, during the 20th century, now the 21st century, has tried to communicate with the people directly, not through the media, not filtered by the media, but directly. And I think that's what President Trump is doing. And it seems that sometimes he may shoot himself in the foot, but overall, I think he's doing a pretty good job of communicating what he's thinking to the American people, and the media are very upset by this because they feel that is their prerogative, that is their monopoly, especially these major networks. You know, even when you work in journalism, there's no group of journalists that are so elitist and so arrogant and so entitled as the White House press corps. Yeah. They consider themselves the elite of the elite. And within that press corps, of course, the people who get to sit on the front row, you know, the Associated Press, the CNN, the NBC, the ABC, CBS, the major news networks, they are just considers themselves as demigods or something like that. And no one is supposed to question their authority. No one is supposed to question their credibility. And now that the president is doing that openly, and is even, publishing this meme where he smacks down a logo of their company, not an individual reporter. I mean, he could have done it with Jim Acosta or somebody, the CNN White House correspondent. But actually, he's wrestling a logo. All right, he's wrestling a logo, the CNN logo, and they can't stand it because he is challenging their self-image as people that the American people are supposed to look up to and worship and just receive the gospel truth from, but it's not true, and more people are becoming aware of that, and so that's why they are going down they're going down, and more than one, not just being smacked down, but they're going down. And we see more and more conservative media and more alternative media coming up. We read that story, last week or so, that in the worldtribune.com about how the New York Times is responsible, that article said, for destroying American journalism. That has the Humpty Dumpty effect of that Humpty Dumpty has fallen and has broken into a million pieces, and all the king's men and all the king's horses aren't going to put it back together again. So now we're in the process where new media are emerging to replace the old media, and the old media is not going without a fight.
I think Robert Morton is doing a great job. Also, just in regards to the radio, it was Reagan that brought it back. Franklin started, but in 1982, Ronald Reagan brought it back.
Okay.
A weekly radio
address. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, Richard?
No, look, the established media is guilty of creating fake news. It's a threat to our democracy. They're very irresponsible, so I'm glad to see somebody...
Well, as Paul Joseph Watson put out, it's not just a threat to our democracy, it's a threat to our lives. The fake news that got us into the Iraq War, the fake news, that has created this anti-police sentiment around the country. Many policemen have been killed as a result of that. And so this is really, they talk about this President Trump's meme, this one meme possibly potentially inciting violence against journalists, but they have already incited violence against...
Well, not just increasing the murders of police, increasing murders of inner city youth, because police in Chicago and many other cities, they know that their government is unlikely to back them up, and so they're pulling back, and they're not policing as much as they were.
That's right.
It's called the Ferguson effect.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the result is it is more dangerous for the average citizen in these urban areas to walk on the street.
All right, let's take a break now. We'll be back with more news from a Tonic perspective right after this.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi and the second 5th month and the 10th day. And Richard, why don't I go to you directly and you can cover that story that you wanted to bring up this morning.
Yeah, well, this is a story from a study based from the University of Seattle, and they found that 63% of women that they tested had male DNA in their brains.
How'd that happen?
Well, they tried to figure out where's this male DNA coming from, and they thought maybe it's coming from a male child, but that was not the case of most of these women, or from miscarried male children. Anyway, they narrowed it down, and it seems that the male DNA is actually coming from their sex partners, which...
So is a woman who's never had sex with a man, would that woman not have any male DNA in her brain?
It is unlikely. There are a few other. There are a few. Okay, I'll read you.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a few. Okay, they narrowed it down to an abortion that the woman did not know about, spontaneous abortion. Maybe she was pregnant, had a miscarriage. A male twin that vanished. An older brother transferred by maternal circulation, but they estimate these are very low probability. And number 4 is sexual intercourse with a man, okay? Because the sperm it's a living cell. It burrows into the tissue of the woman, and it makes its way into bloodstream and ends up in the brain, apparently. So it is little, you know, in our relationship education program, we often say that, you know, every partner you have sex with, you have a trace of that, and it's literally true, literally true. I thought that was interesting. I don't know, Lourdes, anyway.
Okay. So, but I'm curious, so what effect does this have on a woman if she has a male DNA in her brain? Does it make her smarter? Does it make her dumber?
Well, I guess it depends on if the male partner is smart or the male partner is dumb. I maybe should be selective about, I don't know. You have to evaluate do I really want this person's DNA in my brain?
Or do men have female DNA in their brain?
I don't think so, because
Well, did they study that?
Let me see if they studied that. Anyway, I think because of anatomy and so on, the male DNA ends up in the women rather than vice versa, if you think about it.
Well, that would be an interesting hypothesis, yes, but it would be great if someone were to study that, and if they were to see it, you know, and I don't know, because, you know, I mean, men have female hormones, right, and women have male hormones, so it would seem, kind of, I mean,
but I don't think this
what would be what's the harm of having a male DNA in a woman's brain?
Well, there might be a benefit.
Might be a benefit? Well, in that case, women should have more sex.
It depends on who you're having sex with. We believe that, or I believe that.
Or if a woman who has only had one partner, will you find her husband's DNA in her brain?
Yeah.
Really?
I think this is what this study is saying.
Again, that's a hypothesis. That study has to take a step further and scientifically investigate that.
I agree. Well,
that would be interesting.
Should we do crowdfunding to fund the study? And
I'm sure there are people who are working on it even now. All right. Is that the end of that story?
I think to be continued.
To be continued. All right. We're waiting for more tests on those hypotheses that we presented today. I wanted to go to a man who definitely has male DNA in his brain, President Trump, and his discussions with Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Sunday. He talked with him by telephone and discussed the threat posed by North Korea, the White House said. Both leaders reaffirmed their commitment to a denuclearized Korean peninsula. President Trump reiterated this determination to seek more balanced trade relations with America's trading partners, the White House said of Trump's call to Xi. Trump has become increasingly frustrated with China's inability to rein in North Korea. Trump and Abe, in their call, reiterated their commitment to increase pressure on North Korea. They reaffirm that the United States-Japan alliance stands ready to defend and respond to any threat or action taken by North Korea, the White House said in a statement. So these were kind of routine calls. I don't know if you call them routine, but on the surface they seem not to have accomplished very much. But but these calls, I'm sure, were intended to send a message to North Korea and especially to China. North Korea is not really listening, so sending them messages doesn't really do much good. But especially to China, because on the one hand, President is continuing to rely on China to rein in North Korea, as it says. But on the other hand, he's getting pretty impatient with them. And so last week, the State Department released a report which criticized China for its human trafficking and, in fact, downgraded China from one level to another, to the worst level, where that's a level, countries in that, where it says that countries in that level are not even trying to stop human trafficking. And it also had a destroyer sail through the South China Sea, going within 12 miles of an island claimed by China. In other words, effectively refusing to recognize China's territorial claims in the South China Sea. Also, the United States, or the State Department has approved $1.3 billion in sales of military equipment to Taiwan, which, by the way, China is now very strongly protesting. And so even as you can say that tensions are rising between the United States and China. But President Trump is gradually ratcheting up the pressure on China. And his nuanced approach to this is quite different from the very unnuanced approach to CNN. And so we see this a very different side of the president, where he is dealing with an issue where potentially millions of lives are at stake. He is very cautious, very nuanced, and very strategic in his approach. And this is happening as the president gets ready to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week in Hamburg, Germany, where the 20 countries with the largest economies in the world, called the G20, are going to be meeting in Hamburg, Germany, and discussing various economic issues. It's going to be various leaders from those countries will be attending, and so he's going to be meeting with Xi Jinping on the side of that meeting. And so these kind of steps that he's been taking against China are, I'm sure, intended to put pressure on China so that he can get a better result out of that meeting. Of course, he met President Xi Jinping last in Mar-a-Lago in April, and there he gave a very clear message to Xi Jinping. He said, listen, we want you to handle North Korea, but if you can't, or you decide that you want, or for various internal domestic reasons you decide that you can't, then we will handle it. Of course, we will handle it implies something very, very catastrophic. Something that Defense Secretary James Mattis has described as being unbelievably catastrophic, where hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people will be killed in just a space of a few days. And so the president is doing everything he can. I can see from this that he's doing everything he can to get China to handle this. And I've said that what needs to be done, I think, is for China to do a military strike against North Korea. And I think China will do it if it is convinced that the United States is about to, because certainly the worst scenario for China would be if the United States invades North Korea and unites the peninsula, centering on Seoul, and creates a united peninsula that is allied with the United States. That would be the worst possible scenario for China, which it wants to avoid at all costs. And so I think if China can be convinced that that is what the United States is about to do, then it will go into North Korea and remove the nuclear threat, and thereby remove the United States a reason for attacking North Korea. So I think somehow the Chinese have to be manipulated, let's use that word, manipulated into attacking North Korea. That would be the best scenario, the best of all the bad scenarios that I can think of. Unfortunately, that will probably solidify further the division of the Korean Peninsula, and so what would have to happen after that would be that you would work on dividing China, having China collapse into various divided groups. And that, if you look at Chinese history, that's always very possible. So that is what the president did with North Korea on Sunday. So he was not just making fun of CNN, but he was also doing some very serious business yesterday, and we're very glad to see that. All right, we'll take a short break right now and come back with more news from a Chunuk perspective in just a minute.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Chunuk, Hyungjin Moon, who is even at this moment making his way back to Pennsylvania safely, we presume and hope. And we will be certainly welcoming him when he returns. I wanted to go now to a speech that the president made on a Saturday at the Kennedy Center. This was what was it called? Anyway, it's an event that honored freedom and veterans. U.S. President Donald Trump honored military veterans in Washington on Saturday at a Kennedy Center event that resembled both a political rally and an evangelical Christian religious service ahead of the July 4th Independence Day holiday. Using the podium again to lash out at the media, Trump worked to energize evangelicals in his political base, noting that the U.S. currency was inscribed with the words, "In God We Trust." Since the signing of the Declaration of Independence 241 years ago, America always affirmed that liberty comes from our Creator, our rights are given to us by God, and no earthly force can ever take those rights away, he said. Isn't it so wonderful to have a president who speaks like this? And it's true that human rights can only exist based on a belief in God. Attendees at the event for veterans waved miniature American flags from their seats in the theater and raised their hands as a sign of praise, while a large choir sang ahead of Trump's remarks. The president praised veterans from each of the U.S. military branches and highlighted his administration's work to reform veteran services. Trump, who is spending a long weekend at his property in Bedminster, New Jersey, flew back to Washington for the rally, but did not spend the night at the White House, preferring to return to Bedminster. Later, in a rare late-night post on Twitter, which he uses prolifically and sometimes controversially, Trump wrote, "We will always take care of our great veterans. You have shed your blood, poured your love, and bared your soul in defense of our country." Trump has held campaign-like rallies regularly during his first few months in the White House and kicked off his own re-election campaign far earlier than other incumbents in recent history. Part of his strategy to connect with his supporters has included criticizing the media, and he included harsh words for the press again in his remarks. "The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them," he said. "The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president, and they're not." He made some remarks about veterans, and really the way that American veterans have been handled is really a scandal, I think. And it's a continuing scandal. The Veterans Administration is just seems to be hopelessly mired in corruption and in inefficiency and in inhumane treatment of veterans. And I keep hearing about this. I myself am not a veteran, but I'm just really embarrassed and scandalized by the way that these people are being treated. Because as President Trump said, these people went to war for their country and came back, and they deserve to be treated much better than they are.
Well, I mean, there's also the issue of, the Democrat Party wants single payer. Well, the Veterans VA, that is single payer.
Right.
And we can see that the government is really not capable of taking care of the health of every citizen of the United States. I mean, it cannot take care of the veterans. So I think, we need to have more of a free market, let people choose their own doctors and have a system where they can go to the doctor that they wish to.
We see a lot of homeless people in all of the urban areas, and many of those people are veterans. What's up with that? I mean, why can't something be done for those veterans at the very least who are on the streets like that? They come back from wars, and many times they go through things in the wars that damages them psychologically, and they're not receiving the treatment that they. If they serve their country, the country should serve them. That's what I feel.
Absolutely.
I don't know what can be. The Veterans Administration situation seems to be so bad that I don't even know what can be done about that.
Well, I mean, they just passed. I believe they passed a bill in the House or the Senate, which would allow the VA to fire people more easily who, in Phoenix, at the Phoenix VA, they were destroying records because they didn't want to be embarrassed by their inability to serve the veterans. They're actually destroying records to hide the fact that they're not giving service to a large number of veterans. But they couldn't fire anybody because of the civil service laws. So in the Congress, they're trying to change that so that if there is... I even heard that there was, I think a couple of years ago, there's somebody working for the Veterans Administration who robbed a bank and could not be fired, even though this person was convicted of robbing a bank. There's something wrong with the civil service rules.
I have an article here from the New York Times on June 23rd, a little more than a week ago, that says that President Trump signed a bill into law on Friday that will make it easier for the Department of Veterans Affairs to remove bad employees and promote whistleblowing. Right. I guess this is what you're referring to.
Yes, yeah.
It is the first step toward fulfilling a campaign pledge by Mr. Trump to make sweeping changes at the beleaguered agency. The long-sought legislation called the Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act passed Congress by wide margins this month with strong support from both parties. David Shokin, a hospital management expert and the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, has said the law will make it easier for him to purge problematic workers and restore public trust at an agency still plagued by a 2014 scandal over manipulating patient wait times. We must fulfill our duty to the nation's veterans, Mr. Trump said at an East Room bill signing ceremony, flanked by Sergeant Michael Verardo, who before retiring from the Army lost his left arm and left leg to an improvised explosive device in 2010 in Afghanistan. He faced 3.5 years of waiting for the department to properly equip his home. Mr. Trump and Mr. Shokin both described the legislation in sweeping terms as representing major changes for the agency. In reality, it is the first step of many reforms that the men hope will better serve the nation's more than 20 million veterans. Mr. Trump has made overhauling Veterans Affairs, the federal government's second largest department, one of his top priorities. Friday's signing provided him with a modest victory during a time when he has struggled to come up with them. During the ceremony, the president praised Mr. Verardo and thanked him for his service. Mr. Verardo rose from his seat, prompting the president to say, "He gets up better than I do." And Mr. Trump lavished attention on Mr. Shokin, who he said is doing a job trying to right the ship at the department. Right, David? It better be, David, and Mr. Trump said, of carrying out improvements there before making a joke using the tagline from The Apprentice, the reality show he helped create. "We will never use those words on you," the president said, using his fingers as a pretend gun and firing a fake shot. The administration is now expected to turn its attention to addressing the backlog of veterans appealing benefits decisions. It must eventually go into an increasingly contentious effort to expand the department's choice program, which makes it easier for veterans to seek private doctors at the government's expense. Under the law signed Friday, Dr. Shokin will have greater authority to expand the demotion, suspension, or removal of department employees based on bad performance or wrongdoing. Senior department executives will no longer be allowed to appeal actions to the Independent Merit Systems Protection Board, and rank-and-file employees will have a constrained window of 180 days to do so after removal. They will no longer be able to stay on the payroll during the appeals process. It also empowers the Secretary to take other punitive actions like revoking bonuses or reducing pensions for executives who have been disciplined. Dr. Shokin will also gain new authority in making executive hiring decisions, particularly the appointment of medical center directors. At the same time, the law aims to better protect whistleblowers by establishing a new office within the department to handle reports of wrongdoing and train employees in whistleblower rights. It is also supposed to block the Secretary from taking retaliatory action against whistleblowers. The bill met opposition among federal workers' unions, which argue it does little to counter the organization's real structural challenges while eroding worker protections. Some fear the new procedures could serve as a model for other federal departments. After the bill signing on Friday, Dr. Shokin spoke briefly to reporters and said the most significant aspect of this bill amounts to a culture change. The purpose of this is not to do firings, he said. The purpose of this is to set the culture and the standards at the VA. That happened about 20 minutes ago. The VA has already started to prepare the changes that we need in our own internal policies and regulations to make sure that we're compliant with this law, and on Tuesday I will sign those internal documents. You know, the praise for veterans and the promises that we will take care of them is something that should not just happen on the 4th of July or on Veterans Day or on Memorial Day or just on the special days like that, but there needs to be something fundamental done here. Talking here about a culture change. It seems pretty obvious that a change in culture needs to be done. and the Veterans Administration apparently is the second largest department. I'm guessing the Defense Department is probably the first. But this is also a big chunk of the federal government. So hopefully we hope that this culture change in the Veterans Administration will also bring about a culture change in the federal government at large, where it actually begins to serve the people in the servant's position and not try to act like an owner. But somehow this archangel needs to be reduced to its original position as the servant. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back in a minute or so with other news. And I'm sure that we'll get to you, Lourdes, in just a minute after this break.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group, made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I guess many people are taking this day off because tomorrow is a national holiday in the United States. 8th year of Cheongi, the second, 5th month, and 10th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheonju, Hyungjin Moon. And Lourdes Schwartz, you had something that you wanted to say about the president's Saturday speech at the Kennedy Center.
I was just, I thought we were going to be missing if we just focus on the veterans, because the whole, the rally called the Celebrate Freedom rally was actually organized by the First Baptist Church of Dallas, and it had a lot of a spiritual component to it, the speech that I really appreciated. I watched live with my family, and the greatest applause came when the president said, "We are a nation that we believe in God, not in government." And that was, to me, you know, the whole center, the Kennedy Center, just exploded in joy. I felt that was the highlight. He also said, since the signing of the Declaration of Independence 240 years ago, America always affirmed that liberty comes from our Creator. Our rights are given to us by God, and no earthly force will ever take those rights away. That is why my administration is transferring power out of Washington and returning that power back what it belongs to the people. I thought that was a great quote. And another quote too is, our religious liberty is enshrined in the very First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. The American founders invoked our Creator 4 times in the Declaration of Independence, said Trump. So I really, I thought we'll miss if we don't touch upon that aspect of the speech.
Yeah, as we read in our Bible Rima this morning, in the American Patriots Bible, there's this page about how benevolent societies in America, many of them centering on churches, not necessarily particular denominations, but non-denominational societies, sprung up around America in the first half of the 19th century, and they were the main engines of social welfare in America. And unfortunately, that got taken over by the government beginning the latter half of the 19th century. And so we have a situation today where people, every time something happens, they look to the government and say, what's the government going to do about this? Where are my food stamps? Where are my food stamps? This kind of a thing. But yeah, the president, I think, it's great that he attended that kind of a religiously sponsored rally that was held at the Kennedy Center, and that he pointed out that we in America don't worship government, we worship God. And I think that's a line that he's been using in a few of his speeches, and I hope he continues to use it. Reuters said that Reuters said that President Trump has begun his re-election campaign. I would say that he has never stopped campaigning, and he needs to go out like this and needs to keep in contact with his base, because that is where he can get the energy with which he can fight and smack down his opponents. Body slam his opponents, and not just in memes. You want to say anything about this, Richard? You're okay?
No, yeah, I'll pass.
It was a great contrast because the CNN was reporting, the Democrats wanting to impeach Trump, and then on the other side there's Fox News showing the speech live. So I thought it was very interesting because he was being uplifted by the American people, and the CNN was, punching him in the face. So
actually, I do have a comment. I think the reality is that unfortunately many people do worship government. They unfortunately
they do.
There's a significant group in the United States. They think that government is the solution to every problem.
Yes.
And they do look to government as the main focus of their lives, and to me that is dangerous. There
is a worldview, and there's a certain worldview.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a worldview that says that individuals are responsible for ourselves, and that we're actually able to come up with the best solutions. And the free market is the best way to go. There's another worldview that says that no, that the government is the solution, that all power should be concentrated in the government, and the government can be trusted to act in a benevolent and wise way in order to solve all problems. And so, yeah, whenever people, when they have a problem, they immediately turn to the government. But that has been shown to be a failure, most recently in Venezuela and in North Korea and Soviet Union. You can go on and on and on.
And it will be a failure here.
Yes, it will be a failure here.
I remember my father-in-law, that someone that always believed in charity, but in his late years in life, he was thinking, well, I pay taxes. I don't have to help anyone. Government is doing that. So,
and that's the trap that people can fall into.
Yeah.
That Jesus said that we should be our brother's keeper, that we should take care of, that we should love our neighbors. But then we say, yeah, we just give all our money to give our taxes to Caesar, and then Caesar will take care of our neighbor. And that's not what Jesus intended. He intended for us to take care of our neighbor directly through these benevolent societies and the people around us.
Actually, I have an example of government goodwill going bad. And you may have already spoken about the Seattle. The city of Seattle passed an increase in the minimum wage.
Actually, I don't think we've covered that. Go ahead.
And it actually led to lower number of hours and a loss of wages.
That's right.
For these low-income workers, because these businesses actually have to break even, unlike government, where if you don't break even, that means you get an increase. But these businesses had to reduce the number of hours. And I know that McDonald's is actually bringing in kiosks, computerized kiosks. So instead of having workers take your order, you're going to have a kiosk, and this is going to lead to a loss of jobs for teenagers and for low-income people. And to me, this is very sad, actually.
And so what is the left's response? They're fighting for $15 minimum wage in other cities as well.
That's right. The fight goes on.
If it fails here,
common sense doesn't matter.
Yeah. But this is economics. This is economics, yeah, because one of the main differences between government and private enterprise is that private enterprise does not operate on other people's money, and it cannot print its own money. And so when the minimum wage goes up, or when you're forced by the government to pay your workers more, then you reduce their hours or you reduce the number of workers. People lose jobs. People who still have jobs have reduced income because they have fewer hours. And if the business owners do what the left want and just keep the same amount of workers and keep the same number of hours and just increase the pay, then the business has to go out. Then the business goes bankrupt, and then nobody has a job.
But the unemployment rate for inner city minorities is much, much higher now than before all of these laws came about, and it's hard for these young people to get jobs.
Well, let's imagine what would happen if there were no minimum wage. What would happen then?
Then people would compete, and I think in the more prosperous areas of the country, I think the wages would be higher, generally speaking. It'd be set, and young people would be able to compete because they're willing to be paid less. So it would give them an entry into being hired and learning how to work.
Well, I think that if you were to eliminate a minimum wage, then the free market system would operate, and businesses, of course, workers have different levels of experience and skills and so forth. So businesses that want to attract better skilled workers would have to pay a certain amount. It would not. The wage would not go to zero because no one would work for zero. Or if there was one company that's charging $1 an hour, for example, and another company that is charging another company who wants to recruit good workers can give, not charge, but to pay more than that, and they would get all the best workers, and then the next company charges, or not charge, but pays more than that. They would get all the best workers until you come to an equilibrium between the supply and demand, and that's what's called the free market, and that's how the free market determines prices and wages. So you have a supply and you have a demand, and we study that in Economics 101, where there is a point where the two lines cross, and that's the wage, or that is the price of the product, and that's the best way for things to operate. And just to have a government establishing a minimum wage distorts the market. And it distorts in this case, it's distorting the labor market. And in the end, it doesn't do businesses good, it doesn't do laborers good, it doesn't do anybody any good, except for the unions. Because the unions then can use that to negotiate a higher pay for themselves. So that is actually what is behind the minimum wage, not the low-income people or the teenagers trying to work at McDonald's, but it's the unions who are supporting that.
And it's also used to put out certain minority businesses have been put out of.
Small businesses. Not just minority businesses, but the small businesses of all kinds. Yes, and that's why it's difficult to start a business, which is actually the best way for people to become economically and financially independent, to have their own business. But large businesses are able to squeeze out small businesses partly in this way, and that's how big business uses big government in order to survive and to squeeze out small businesses.
But as a mom and someone my son's looking for a job, I can see that if you train the children well, performance counts. If I'm hiring someone and someone is performing very well, I wouldn't mind paying that person, that child, more money. because it's able to do the job of 2 or 3. You know, so it actually will work in the benefit of our families as well, because we have to emphasize the training at home. You know, so being responsible and hard work and all those traits that will make a person will help eventually, of course, in her whole life. But for her first job, it will be.
Okay, let's take a break now. We'll have a 5-minute break, and we'll come back with more news from a Chungi perspective. We'll start going through the headlines. And welcome back to the King's Report for July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, who is working his way back to Pennsylvania now, we believe. And I'm here with Richard Panzer and Lourdes Schwartz this morning. And guess what? The president is up and at his desk and at his smartphone, I guess. He is tweeting this morning. And he just put in a tweet 8 minutes ago saying we'll be speaking with Germany and France this morning, and that's not going to be a very easy conversation potentially. And Reuters actually is reporting on the situation between President Trump and Angela Merkel leading up to the G20 meeting later this week. And I just wanted to go through that Reuters article because it gives some background to the president's tweet. German Chancellor Angela Merkel promised to fight for free trade and press on with multilateral efforts to combat climate change at the G20 summit this week, challenging the America First policies of U.S. President Donald Trump. In a defiant speech to Parliament a week before she will host a summit of the world's top economic powers in Hamburg, the northern port city where she was born, Merkel did not mention Trump by name, but said global problems could not be solved with protectionism and isolation. Her remarks raised the prospect of an open clash with Trump at the summit. She later met with European G20 leaders who promised to present a united front in Hamburg while making clear they preferred compromise to conflict. These will not be easy talks, Merkel said. The differences are obvious and it will be wrong to pretend they aren't there. I simply won't do this. The G20 summit will be held a little over a month after a G7 summit in Sicily exposed deep divisions between other Western countries and Trump on climate change, trade, and migration. A short while later, Trump announced he was pulling the United States out of a landmark agreement to combat climate change reached in 2015 in Paris. Ahead of the G20 summit, the Trump administration has threatened to take punitive trade measures against China, including introducing tariffs on steel imports. Of course, China being one of a member of the G20. This has made for an unusually tense atmosphere before the summit, and German officials acknowledge they have little idea what the final communique will look like. Asked about Merkel's comments, Trump's national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, said the U.S. relationship with Germany was as strong as ever and played down the discord. Of course, there are going to be differences in relations with any country, and we'll talk frankly about those differences. The president enjoys these conversations, McMaster told reporters. The German hosts face a difficult challenge along with Trump. Russia's Vladimir Putin and Turkey's Erdogan will be attending. All have strained relations with Merkel and other European leaders. This summit in a convention center in the heart of Hamburg could also be disrupted by tens of thousands of protesters expected to descend on the city of 1.7 million. Merkel said she was more determined than ever to make the Paris Accord a success since Trump's decision to pull out, calling climate change an existential challenge. We cannot wait until every last person on Earth has been convinced of the scientific proof, she said. Anybody who believes the problems of the world can be solved with isolationism and protectionism is making a big mistake, Merkel said. Trump looks forward to discussing his economic rationale for quitting the deal during his G20 meetings, said Gary Cohn, his top economic advisor. He's going to ask for a fair and level playing field. We cannot be in a position where the United States is cutting emissions while others continue to grow, Cohn told reporters, especially China. China doesn't have to cut anything under that accord until 2030. at least. French President Emmanuel Macron in Berlin for the meeting of EU leaders, which included the prime ministers of Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and Britain, said he hoped the United States would return to reason on climate, but he also stressed that it made little sense to try and isolate Trump and Hamburg. The relationship with the United States is a long-term one, and it is deep, Macron said. I believe we must continue an intense dialogue with the United States because of these ties, which are historic and enduring. At Macron's invitation, Trump will visit Paris a week after the July 7 to 8 G20 summit for Bastille Day celebrations. They spoke by phone on Tuesday and agreed to work together to respond to any new chemical attacks from the Syrian government. Donald Tusk, the former Polish prime minister who chairs summits of EU leaders, said in Berlin that European countries would speak with one voice in Hamburg, defending the rules-based international order that Trump has called into question. So President Trump, according to this, spoke with Macron last Tuesday. He's going to speak with him again. He's also speaking with Angela Merkel today, and yesterday he spoke with Abe, and who else was they spoke with? But anyway, so the president is on the phone with world leaders really constantly. He's working to restore America's position in the world, but not as a follower, but as a leader. And right now, Angela Merkel is trying to, and Reuters also is trying to present her as kind of the leader of the Western world, but that European Union is gradually dissolving, and it's breaking up. We already see that their directives on gun control have been challenged already by the Czech Republic, which is in the process of creating a constitutional amendment to put the freedom to own guns into its constitution, but that in a similar way as the U.S. Constitution. And we see that the Czech Republic and Poland and Hungary are refusing to go along with migration quotas, being forced to accept the numbers that are being dictated to them from Brussels. And of course, Britain is in the process now of negotiating its departure from the EU. And so really, Merkel is not in a position to be dictating to Donald Trump. And I know that Trump will hold strong in that way. Really, do you guys have anything that you want to say on this? Silence?
Has been said.
But really, Donald Trump is establishing the United States as a leader again.
He's keeping his promise, which is important. Yeah.
Well, let's start going through the headlines on Drudge. Here on the upper left, it says that Republican-dominated states raising taxes, massive hikes for Illinois. And this is an article that says that a number of states that the Republicans are dominating are actually beginning to raise their state income taxes and their property taxes, especially in Illinois. Illinois actually has a Republican governor and a legislature that is controlled in both houses by Democrats. And of course, they've been fighting now, haven't been able to pass a budget for 3 years, and their bonds are in danger of being downgraded now to junk status. That would be the worst credit rating given to any state in the history of this kind of thing. More people are moving out of Illinois because of the high property taxes. Some people have moved here from Illinois to northeast Pennsylvania because of that. People are free to choose the state they want to live in. Of course, in the Chunuk Constitution, there will be no property taxes, and there will be no income tax on the federal level. Only the sales tax, mainly the sales tax. And the main story in Drudge, of course, now he body slams CNN. Media freak out. United Airlines lands with engine on fire at Denver Airport. Pilot talks about weather phenomenon and drops off radar. Britney Spears causes chaos in Jerusalem. Obama warns Americans about too much patriotism on the July 4th weekend. Isn't that nice of him? He's visiting Indonesia, where he spent some years as a young child. And of course, there's a lot of, we can get into the speculation on that as to exactly what his relationship with Indonesia is, and his relationship with Islam. But here, as President Trump was praising American veterans in Washington, Obama was in Indonesia warning against too much patriotism. While most Americans are gathering a family community this weekend to celebrate the most exceptional country in the history of the world, Mr. Hope and Change is halfway around the world talking doom and gloom and criticizing his successor. Barack Obama visited Indonesia this weekend and in a series of appearances attacked love of country and the policies of Donald Trump. The Guardian, the UK paper, reports the former president said some countries had adopted an aggressive kind of nationalism and increased resentment of minority groups in his speech in Indonesia on Saturday that could be seen as a commentary on the U.S. as well as Indonesia. It's been clear for a while that the world is at a crossroads, at an inflection point, Obama said, telling a Jakarta crowd stories of how much the capital had improved since he lived there as a child. But he said that increased prosperity had been accompanied by new global problems, adding that as the world confronts issues ranging from inequality to terrorism, some countries, both developed and less developed, had adopted a more aggressive and isolationist stance. Isn't it kind of ironic that the former President Obama is coming under criticism from the left for his whole string of lavish vacations? He's photographed on the yachts of billionaires, and then he is vacationing here, he's vacationing there, now he's in Indonesia, and he talks about the growing problem of inequality. Yes, of course. And basically, socialism leads to inequality. You have the wealth that is concentrated in the hands of a very few. Today in Venezuela, there are some people who are drinking champagne and eating caviar today in Venezuela, going golfing in the afternoon. They don't have any problem. And we hear about the humanitarian crisis. We don't hear about the rich people who are saying, "Hey, no, we're okay. There's no problem here." And they continue to support that socialist dictator President Maduro because their interests are not at stake. That's socialism. It's not just that it makes most of the population poor. There's a small elite always that is actually doing okay. That was the same was true in the Soviet Union. The nomenklatura had their own department store. Yes. North Korea has stores where only certain people are allowed in. That is the true picture of socialism, where there is the greatest inequality. There is the greatest inequality in socialism and in communism. All right, a brief mention of the former president, and we'll take a break now and come back in a minute or so with more news from a Cheonggyu perspective.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group, made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Chanuguk, Hyungjin Moon, whose arrival we are expecting in a not too distant future. I want to go to Richard Panzer now, who has a story about what is going on in the country that we just mentioned in the last segment, the great socialist country of Venezuela. What's happening there, Richard?
Well, there's a very interesting article I'd just like to share. Here's a quick timeline. Private ownership of guns was banned in 2012. In 2013, preppers were relabeled hoarders, and the act of stocking up became illegal. In 2014, the government instituted a fingerprint registry for those who wished to buy food to ensure they didn't take more than their share. In 2015, electricity began to be rationed, and farmers were forced to turn over their harvest to the government. 2016 brought the announcement folks were on their own. There's simply not enough food. So the government wanted to take over, but then they realized the food distribution, then they realized they couldn't do it. So you're back on your own. And let me see. It says here that electricity shortage was announced in 2016. Then last year, the country was running out of food, medicine, nearly all basic necessities. People dying of starvation, and malnourishment made other illnesses even worse. Hyperinflation brought exorbitant prices, $150 for a dozen eggs. And
$150 for a dozen eggs?
Yeah. So
US dollars?
Yeah, that's apparently the price that's what it costs to buy a dozen eggs. And then there's
that's pretty amazing.
A letter from a Venezuelan mom of a 1-year-old baby. You can't go outside to buy food or supplies or medication because each activity is a high risk, and more so with the baby. I guess she's afraid of being robbed or attacked. So I stay home as much as I can. There are a lot of people outside trying to live normally, trying to go to work and buy foods and continue their lives. But when you're working or whatever thing you're doing, you don't know will you be able to come back home safe? People continue to work to get whatever Ms. will pay to buy some food. So there's a huge problem with crime, of course. Beans and rice are affordable but still not cheap. It's so hard to find food. You can buy 1 or 2 items of pasta and rice, and you have to wait in long lines at your own risk because there are a lot of fights in this store. Malls, anyway, she just goes on. It is a living hell there. People are, anyway, I feel sorry for the people of Venezuela. I wish there was more we could do to help them. Yeah.
And yet, the government there says that socialism is not the problem.
That's right.
It is sabotage.
Yeah.
Here on June 22nd, 2017, this is an interview with the Minister of Economy of Venezuela. Today in the corporate media, Venezuela's economic problems are used to paint the country as a failed state in need of foreign-backed regime change. To get the Bolivarian government's side of the crisis, Abby Martin interviews Venezuela's Minister of Economic Planning, Ricardo Menendez. They discuss shortage of oil dependency, the role of the U.S.-backed opposition movement, and more. The Empire Files join him in Venezuela, where he's speaking to the press. So this is a leftist publication trying to support the idea that the U.S. is the problem, of course, that it's not socialism.
That is not unique to Venezuela. What we're seeing, a crisis, is actually all over South America. Brazil.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I haven't researched in detail, but the crisis is getting worse in Brazil as well. My brother, he is a manager of a large bank. is someone that does very well, and he himself thinks he should leave Brazil because of the crisis. So we're facing, it's not just unique to Venezuela, it's just what the media is reporting. But I recall a report recently from our brother from Peru. He was saying that because he was trying to help his father who's ill. He's actually the national leader in Peru. And the price of lemon for a dozen of lemon was $24. So we're seeing the situation is very serious. And that is why Americans don't understand, unfortunately, that whatever happens here, if we lose in America, the whole Central America, South America will be devastated for them as well. This is the beacon of light. That is why people want to come here and not to Brazil or to any other nation, because the hope is still the United States of America. And I can see, I wish I had done research on this, but the situation in Brazil is quite chaotic, of course, politically as well, but yeah, crime, you saw during the Olympics, crime is rampant as well.
Of course, the problem is that people come here from other countries and then they want America to implement the same policies that destroyed their own countries.
That's right, yes. That's right.
Many of these countries have a lot of natural resources and...
Venezuela is an oil exporting country.
That's right.
Yeah.
And yet they're very poor. Of course, we see that not only in Venezuela, but also in Africa as well. Many of the countries with the largest amount of mineral resources and natural resources are sometimes just rife with poverty. And it's a matter of a system, matter of a government and how and the government's role there. All right, let's continue going here. So NBC News decries rise of conservative media for creating polarized country. As if the conservative media is the problem, when actually the polarization was brought about by the liberal media. And NASA unveils a plan to test asteroid defense, as if we didn't have enough to worry about. Maybe an asteroid will put a short end to all of this. A big pharma turns to artificial intelligence to speed drug discovery. Injuries after volcano popular with a tourist erupts in a volcano, erupts in Indonesia. Disneyland plans a PC makeover for its Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. Baseball challenged by domestic assault accusations on social media. EU in crisis over boat migrants. Yes, have you been following this? Apparently, what happened was that the Mediterranean Sea was calm for several days in a row. And so people in North Africa said, wow, this is great. Let's go there. Let's go to Europe on our boats. And so what happens is that the what do you call it? The shepherds or the people who are taking people to Europe, they'll only take them a couple miles off the Algerian coast or the North African coast. And then rescue ships come out to meet them, quote, rescue, unquote, ships. And so a huge number of migrants have gone into Europe just in the past few days, just in the past week or so. Italy's interior minister on Sunday called on European countries to open their ports to migrant rescue ships as he met for crisis talks with his French and German counterparts. Israel has threatened to close its ports to charity ships that rescue migrants in the Mediterranean if other EU ships do not agree to take some of the growing number of refugees onto their shores. We are under enormous pressure, Marco Minetti said in Paris before the talks, which are taking place ahead of the EU summit in Tallinn this week. Italian media reports said Rome was likely to call for a European code of conduct to be drawn up for the privately run aid boats, with the one paper saying the vessels that do not comply should be seized. Over the past week alone, around 10,000 migrants have been ferried to Italy after being rescued from overcrowded rickety boats traveling from Libya. Just in the past week alone, 10,000. More than, and you can see in the photograph here, how many women do you see in that photograph? 0, right? These are all young military age men coming into Europe. So they call it a migration, or one might call it an invasion just as well. More than 2,160 have died trying to reach Europe from Africa so far this year, and Italy has taken in 82,000 migrants in the first 6 months of 2017, 19% more than in the same period last year. Critics say these ships have become part of the business model of people smugglers in Libya, who are able to sell places on flimsy vessels by telling migrants that they are likely to be rescued once out at sea. There are NGO ships, Sophia and Frontex boats, Italian Coast Guard vessels saying migrants in the Mediterranean, saving migrants in the Mediterranean, Mr. Minetti said, referring to the charity boats as well as vessels deployed under EU border security missions. If the only ports where refugees are taken to are Italian, something is not working. This is the heart of the question, he told one newspaper. One rescue organization, SOS Mediterranean, which runs an aid vessel along with Doctors Without Borders, said forcing boats to carry migrants to go to other European ports would be logistically difficult. If the order came, we would have no choice, we would obey, but it would be completely impossible with more than 1,000 people on board, SOS Mediterranean spokesman said. And then we'd need to make a stopover in an Italian port anyway to refuel, and we'd end up needing to be rescued ourselves. At the height of the migration crisis in 2015, when hundreds of thousands of refugees were arriving in Europe from Turkey via the Balkans route, the EU set up a quota system to try to distribute some migrants to other member states. But that scheme barely got off the ground. Migrant numbers arriving in Greece from Turkey have slowed to a trickle as a result of an EU deal with Ankara last year to halt the traffic. But numbers are now surging on the Mediterranean route from Libya, with nearly all of them heading for Italy. What is happening in front of our eyes in Italy is an unfolding tragedy, UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi said at the weekend as he called on Italy's neighbors to do more to help. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has said that next week he would talk with the Italian and Greek prime ministers to see what the EU could do to relieve Italy and Greece in their difficult struggles. So you see, EU is just crumbling all over the place. So they stopped the migrants pretty much they're coming in from Turkey to Greece. But now the migrants are coming from Libya to Italy. And if they stop it there, I'm sure they will find some other route. You can't, as long as the EU says that it is going to be accepting these migrants, they're going to keep on coming, and they're going to, and as we see, they are transforming Europe to the extent that Europe is going to become an Islamic area. Yeah. And well, there go human rights. EU wants to talk about human rights. Now these new migrants, I'm sure that when they start voting, are they going to be voting for climate accords that tell them they can't have a certain level of more than a certain level of carbon emissions? Women's rights. This is going to have a huge effect on women's rights as Sharia law comes into effect. And look at Sweden already. Look at Germany. What's happening with Germany? And now Europe wonders why America doesn't want to go along. Why America can't follow their progressive, pioneering efforts. Right, yeah. Thank you, President Trump, for standing up for America. And thank you, President Trump, for body slamming Fraudulent News Network so that we can protect this country. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back in a minute or so with more news from a Chattanooga perspective.
Your love is my armor.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Chanuk, Hyungjin Moon. And you know, sometimes you just look at something that a politician does and you got to ask yourself, what was he thinking? And this is the case with Governor Chris Christie. In New Jersey, the legislature failed to pass a budget for the new fiscal year that began on July 1st, on what was that, Saturday. And so the governor, Chris Christie, said, okay, then because we don't have a budget, we're going to close the government, the state government, for all of the government except for essential services. So all the state parks and beaches in New Jersey were closed for this July 4th weekend. But guess what Chris Christie did after closing the beaches?
Well, I mean, he didn't want it to be totally wasted. There's a lot of empty space, so.
From Berkeley Township, people hoping to visit Island Beach State Park this weekend were not allowed in because of the state government shutdown Governor Chris Christie ordered amid the state budget standoff in Trenton. But there was one family there, Christie's family. They are using the summer beach house provided by the state for a weekend down the shore. And here are exclusive aerial photos by New Jersey Advance Media showing Christie surrounded by wife, Mary Pat Christie, and others. Yeah, let's open that. Let's get a good look at the governor in his bathing suit here. Let's get a full screen so that you can see it even better. Here, the area photos. They're the only ones on the beach. There you see that, and there you go. That's, oh yeah, okay. Nice bathing suit photographs, aerial photographs. Here, and enjoying their private beach. He closed the beach to the entire state, but obviously the members of his family got to enjoy the beach. What is he thinking? What is going through this guy's mind as he's doing this? Governor Christie and family go on closed Island Beach State Park in New Jersey. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Well, you know, as I mentioned yesterday during the church service, this kind of thing would be avoided in Chanuguk because state parks would not be managed by the state. These parks would not be managed by the state. They would be managed by private nonprofits or private in the private sector anyway, whether for-profit or nonprofit. You know, and I pointed out that the Central Park Conservancy in Manhattan gives a kind of a model for a kind of a halfway thing. In that case, the New York City, in case of a Central Park in New York City still owns the land, which is would not be the case under the Chanuguk Constitution. But New York City in this case, so this is kind of a halfway step. New York City owns the land, and a private nonprofit corporation called the Central Park Conservancy manages and operates the park. And the way this came about was that the government was doing a really, really bad job of keeping crime out of the park and of keeping the park clean. And so the people living around there said, we have to, you know, this is our neighborhood, we have to do something. And so they formed this nonprofit corporation, which now operates the park and also provides a big chunk of the budget for the operation of the park. And it's working really well. Central Park is a far safer, a far cleaner place than what it was under the previous arrangement. And you know, if state parks were, you know, if each state park was managed by a different for-profit or non-profit corporation, there would be competition, right? People would choose which one they want to go to, and there would be competition, and so with competition you have increased quality and decreased prices and fees. But what you have now is that when the state gets into financial trouble, there's this partial shutdown of the state government, and as a result, all state parks are closed. and also, when the federal government gets shut, then all of a sudden all, national parks and federally run facilities are closed as well. I hope that we can use this as a teaching moment for people to understand how things could be done better. We need to start thinking about how to transfer functions of the currently served by the government into the private sector, and this is definitely one of them. Can you think of anything else that should be transferred to the private sector, Richard?
That's currently run by government?
Yeah.
Education.
I agree with Lourdes. Education, I believe, should be. I think government control of education is not a good idea.
Why is that?
Because then you get politicized education. You get what is taught to students becomes a political issue, and I think parents should have the right to free choice to choose what kind of education they want their children to have.
And there's a whole issue of parents being able to pass down their values to their children, isn't there? Right now, the education system really tries to supplant the role of parents, and they have their set of values. The schools have their set of values, which they want to inculcate the children with. And this brings separation between parents and children and leads to the breakdown of the families. I think anyone who has put their children through public schools has experienced this. And it's really a sad situation that we face, where the state brainwashes children to reject their parents, and they reject their parents' values. And that has caused a tragic situation in many families. I'm sure that many of our viewers have experienced that as well. Lourdes, you want to say something here? No?
I mean, I'll give you an example.
Okay, give us another example.
Well, I mean, this has to do with college education. UCLA just fired a conservative professor who defended free speech. And there's another example of, it's amazing to me. Free speech is a core bedrock value of America. It's guaranteed in the First Amendment. And yet, this, let's see, Keith Fink, an attorney and free speech defender who's been critical of UCLA for denying students free speech rights, was told that he would not be appointed as a continuing lecturer. And his teaching assistant said this outcome is entirely politically motivated by Fink's superiors and others at the university who do not like his message on issues such as free speech and due process, which UCLA routinely flouts. This is quite dangerous.
Yeah. All right, so Chris Christie, as he enjoys his weekend on the beach, keeping out of the entire state, I'm not sure what he has planned for his re-election, but anyway.
No, he's limited. He cannot run again.
He cannot run again. Oh, I see. So
I don't think he would win if he did run, so it's probably...
He's just getting as much out of his office as he can then before he has to retire. All right, I can understand that, I guess. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. Let's go on. Ron Paul, won't be total shock if stocks plummet 25% by October. And he's also saying gold 25% down for stocks, and maybe gold will go up 50% by October, he's saying. We're hearing more and more of these doom and gloom reports, aren't we? Who was it? Mark Faber was giving that doom and gloom report a while ago. Of course, there are other people who have a much rosier picture, but this man, Ron Paul, says, speaking to CNBC last week, the former GOP presidential contender argued the economy is not as strong as Wall Street consumer consensus believes, and the situation could turn ugly as soon as October. If our markets are down 25% and gold is up to 50%, it wouldn't be a total shock to me, said Paul recently on Future Now. That scenario would drag the S&P index to as low as 1819 and gold to as high as 1867. So we'll see what happens in October, and we'll come back. You know, people always make predictions, and they always remember the ones they got right, and they put those on their book covers and everything like that. But they quietly ignore the ones that they got wrong. We'll see who is right this time. Americans debate democracy's fate. Battle lines between red states and blue cities is drawn in Austin, Texas. Facebook drone could one day provide global internet access. China robots displace workers as wage spiral pressures profits. A man may face charges after shooting self in penis by sitting on the gun. All right, guys, gun safety. La La Land, 1,000 tons of radioactive waste, has an ocean view and nowhere to go. Flushed contraceptives turning fish transgender. I think I've seen that article before. July 4th miracle as wounded eagle rescued in D.C. Craft. You know, even stupid people deserve to have the right to self-defense, all right? So, but of course they pay the price for their stupidity. And I guess we're not going to go into that article. You can go into it if you like, but it looks like he paid the price for his stupidity. But even stupid people deserve the right to have an inalienable right for self-defense, an inalienable right to be able to carry firearms. But there's always the consequence of stupidity. Saudi Arabia moves to silence deposed prince. Dissidents, a columnist suspended for praising king with godlike attributes. A police chief lashes out at cop haters. We protect, defend. They give us a big FU. All right, let's take a break before we come back for our final segment with our news from the Tony Group perspective. Welcome back to the King's Report for Monday, July 3rd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second King of Hyungjin Moon. And we see on this Drudge, that we just headline that we had just before going to break, that the police chief in San Diego is really sick and tired of police haters. And I wanted to go into that article. As Paul Joseph Watson pointed out in the video that we watched at the beginning of, near the beginning of today's broadcast, really CNN has had a big role, not just CNN, but other media also have had a big role in creating this atmosphere of hatred towards the police. And San Antonio Police Chief William McManus said Saturday he was angry at those who hate and do not back the police force. McManus and other SAPD officers met with members of the South Side Saturday morning as part of a monthly event called Coffee with the Cops. McManus, visibly upset, said he was angry at those who hate the police. I'm angry at the police haters. I'm sick of the police haters, McManus said. We protect them, we defend them, and they give us a big FU, and I'm sick of it. His comments come a day after Officer Miguel Moreno died at Brooke Army Medical Center from wounds received in a shootout with a man with an extensive criminal history. A second officer, Julio Cavazos, was also wounded in the shootout that happened Thursday while the officers were on patrol near San Antonio College. Cavazos was shot in the chest but will recover, SAPD reports. Last November, Detective Marconi was shot and killed while issuing a traffic citation. His death marked the first for the department since Officer Robert Deckard Jr. was killed while pursuing robbery suspects in December 2013. Like many other police departments around the country, SAPD has regularly hosted community events such as Coffee with the Cops to promote a more public interface with their communities. Many folks turned out to wish the police well and especially offered kind words to Chief McManus at the event. And one woman carrying her 10-month-old granddaughter slowly worked her way towards McManus and greeted with him with a smile and a hug. They posed for a photo as the woman rested her head against McManus near his badge, which bore a black band to signify the loss of an officer. He's got a good heart. She said, you can hear it when he speaks. Like the other day when I heard him, you can hear that he worries about every single police officer that goes out and prays that they come back with the same, come back to the same shift to their families. At police headquarters on Santa Rosa, the impromptu memorial for Moreno continued to grow Saturday with flowers, heartfelt messages, and blue balloons. Flags were flying at half-staff throughout the city and all the state offices as ordered by Governor Abbott on Friday.
Actually, I have some good news.
Okay.
It's about Liberia's new bold approach to education reform. And
Okay.
the article asks, can independent school operators transform education in the developing world? Bridge International Academics is trying. A for-profit company, Bridge operates 520 schools around the world, including Kenya, Nigeria, and India. Early results look promising. Students who attend Bridge schools reach English and math benchmarks at roughly double the rates of their public school peers.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just share a little bit more about what they're doing. Okay, so yeah, PSL schools' teaching methods differ substantially from standard government schools. Bridge-run institutions, for example, provide teachers with electronic tablets, prepare standardized lesson plans and workbooks in advance. They extended the school day, and they have a unique phonics program. And, you know, let me see here. But they have much higher rates of students passing their, you know, being able to meet benchmarks in math and English. And yeah, here we go. In Kenya, the Bridge International Academics have fluency and comprehension scores 37% higher than their peers in neighboring government schools, and math scores 24% higher. So it looks, you know, I mean, the point to me is innovation, find out what works. If it doesn't work, then it goes out of business. So I think this could be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to finish today's broadcast with this article. Yesterday was July 2nd. And remember, July 2nd was supposed to be the day when there were going to be riots in the streets all across the country, and the left was going to have their big push. And guess what? I predicted. I made a prediction. All right? And since this is one I got right, I'm going to emphasize it. I predicted it would fizzle out. All right? And let's see if I was right or not. Huh? Resistance holds impeachment protests across California nationwide. So they did have some, but protesters from a resistance movement demonstrated in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and nationwide on Sunday to call for President Donald Trump's impeachment. But you barely heard about it, right? You barely heard about it. Yeah?
There's not much going on.
Not much going on. So who was right?
Damn it.
Where did you hear it first?
King's Report.
Thousands of anti-Trump demonstrators showed up in downtown. See, only thousands, not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands. In downtown Los Angeles, and hundreds more attended some 45 rallies across the country. Of course, you'll forget everything that I got wrong, right? We won't go into that. Thousands of demonstrators gathered Sunday in downtown Los Angeles for a march to impeach President Donald Trump. Massive crowds marched from Pershing Square to Fletcher, Boron Square to urge Congress to impeach the president. So today is July 3rd. So who's president of the United States today?
Trump.
Donald Trump, yes. The Los Angeles march was one of 45 sister marches across the nation, including Orange County, San Diego, San Francisco, and Ventura. So they talk about all these places are in California, right? Orange County, San Diego, San Francisco, and Ventura. But they're talking about across the nation. But Orange County, San Diego, San Francisco, and Ventura. There was one in Philadelphia, too. A few people showed up, I guess. According to the Los Angeles Times, a small group of pro-Trump counter demonstrators also marched, they said. The official website for the marches, impeachmentmarch.org, listed 2 reasons for Trump's impeachment. One is his violation of a foreign emoluments clause and the domestic emoluments clause. Marchers in Ann Arbor, Michigan, okay, there we go, outside California, also reportedly claimed that Trump deserved to be impeached because of alleged obstruction of justice and the firing of FBI Director James Comey. Other marches featured similar themes, and so this happened. But basically, it was in the words of a famous CNN contributor, a nothing burger.
A nothing burger.
It was a nothing burger. Just a few thousand people. Right. Yes.
Time to describe it.
Yeah. So that really didn't turn out the way that they were hoping. They were supposed to, have this big, huge push. July 2nd was going to be the day, but that seems not to have happened at all. Whereas, and that was the same day, of course, that Donald Trump body slammed the CNN logo. And so I think that actually got much more attention and much more coverage than these nationwide marches,
But we have to find out if the logo sues Donald Trump for damages.
If the logo sues Donald Trump. Yeah.
But also, I feel myself, and I don't have anything to back it up, but the Christians coming together, making the conditions that rally in Washington, D.C., that is something that God might be using as a condition to stop the left from getting power. I trust that is something that is happening in America. Christians are coming together, evangelicals are uniting, and that creates a great support for our president. Thank God for that.
I think it was an amazing communication strategy to put out that tweet to just suck all the air out of the left on the day that they were supposed to have their big thing. Yeah. The president is speaking. He says he spoke with Saudi Arabia yesterday. He's speaking with Germany and France and Italy this morning. And so he is busy at work. And so let's finish this broadcast and get to work as well. All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning and for the King's Report. And I think a big surprise will be in store for us tomorrow. So please tune in. And God bless, Godspeed, and may thy kingdom come.